Hi, good day. My name is Gillis. I'm the CEO of Sea Monster. We're an animation and serious gaming and AR VR company based in Cape Town, South Africa. We're here today to share a case study with you for a game that we built called Livin It Up for a company called Capitec. It's all about our relationship with money, which we know is a complex one based on our values, our cultures, and how do these values influence the decisions that we make. We think that by solving the problem in South Africa, we have lessons that we can share with our friends and partners around the world. Specifically, we looked at the human challenge. We understood the South African and global context for financial education. We looked at the company challenge and how we build a business case together with our partners in this. We'll show you some of what the solution looks like, and then, of course, some of those all important results and the traction that we're getting to date. The world has a disease. No, not that one. This one is about the growing divide between rich and poor. And at the heart of this sits the business insight that says if we can own the consumer education, the financial education space, it can be a driver of long-term strategic value. We can grow our own markets. Traditionally, learning about money has been from a textbook, or maybe in a classroom or on the job. These are not necessarily as effective as they can be. It's a practical skill. It's a change in our attitude towards money. That's all important. And of course, we have to change our behavior. It's not only what we think, it's what we do that matters. And we believe that we've taken early steps in this regard with the game, and we'd love to share those examples because we think lessons that we're learning in South Africa are true everywhere in the world. As we took a deep dive into the human challenge, we knew that South Africa was young and poor. In fact, Africa as a whole is the youngest continent, and we wanted to make sure that we resonated with young adults, which is where the game is primarily focused. This is not for kids. We also knew that the traditional forms that they access financial literacy are largely ineffective, and the research validated that whole approach. And then, of course, people are poor, and by definition, they have little disposable income. Yet the research is very, very clear that even if you save $1 to $2 a month, you tee up a very different financial future for yourself. And so we needed to find ways to break this myth in people's mind that only rich people can save. So the insight really was something visual, bite-sized, interactive, that cuts across cultures and literacy levels, and of course, games do this brilliantly. Capitec is one of the third largest bank brands in the world. It's by independent research. And they saw that the investments that they were making in their licensing spend, so banks around the world need to spend a portion of their money on licenses, corporate social responsibility. And if they could leverage this as a strategic business advantage, they would be in a very different position from all of their competitors for sure. And it looks expensive, but yes, compared to all the alternatives, games can be very cost effective at delivering hours of voluntary engagement. And ultimately, this was driven by a data need within the bank rather than a marketing need primarily. So it was about understanding the consumer, getting better insights, looking for patterns in the data, and then being able to scale that and hook that back into the banking system itself. So we built Living It Up, which is about financial capability. So that's an interesting word, again, being able to do something differently and how you would balance up the skills, the knowledge, and that all important behavior change. And it was a mobile first game. Specifically, it's based on a series of relatable characters. This comes from the rich research that the bank had done into their consumers. And as game designers and storytellers, we know that it's those archetypes that are so important to us. The psychologists tell us that it's really only the tension with archetype that precipitates a change in behavior. So we took their research and we built these visual characters and the worlds that they live in. And then we layered in the financial concepts on top of that. How do you make decisions in the short term? How do you balance that up against your longer term aspirations? And the whole game is really set within this context of dreams. Again, that future orientation is so important to financial capability. And our character starts and they've got a very basic apartment with a box next to their bed. And like you and me, they needed to make decisions about pimping their apartment, buying new TVs, and balancing that somehow to saving for the long term as well. And that's very much what the game does. Specifically, you start out by setting those dreams. You have your apartment. Here's mine. It's coming along nicely. Thank you. We have a series of mini games which are related to each of the characters, and that's where I earn my cash. And then, of course, I go and make my savings and investment decisions, and off we go. So, as game designers, these things are fascinating to us. It's the skills and knowledge and the deep learning outcomes that we needed to embed under this. But of course, our players get to see fantastic screens like this that we're very proud of. So this graph shows the positive effect that compounding interest, that all elusive idea can have for all of us. It's got a very visual interface that gives people a sense of agency and allows them to try different approaches. This is just one of examples of many of the way that we took learning outcomes and really brought them to life. So did it work? Well, we're delighted to say that it did. We have almost 50,000 active players at the moment. We've had well over 220,000 completed sessions. And just look at this number, almost 18 minutes of active time per session, 18 minutes of voluntary engagement with the brand. We have a number of different ways that we look at the data. This is the sessions per user. And of course, like many games, there's a number of whales who we understand clearly. This shows the effect of marketing efforts and how that correlates with the growth in users. So really understanding the cost of acquisition there. And there are many, many other ways that we've cut the data. But this one's very interesting to us. It's just one example of a user anonymized, of course. Here are the goals across the top. So buying a car, contributing to a community center, or going on holiday, whatever those long-term goals. The green ticks are where they succeed. The red crosses are where they give up. So look at what happens. Succeed, give up, succeed, give up, give up. Failing safely in a word. And then the strategy changes because red ticks are all about failing, completing, but you literally didn't achieve the goal. So fail, achieve, Did we just measure resilience? And look at how the strategy for this person evolved over time. And so we measure everything and then look for the patterns in the data. The business case has been profound. Of course, there's the PR value. We've opened up an entirely new communication channel. We have the community management layer and all the take to market stuff that we're busy learning about. But critically, we have a full monitoring and evaluation framework. M&E is a very well-established protocol that public benefit organizations around the world use, and more corporates are using it as a methodology to assess whether we're getting the shifts that we need to, beyond just financial returns, looking at that all-important change in behavior. We have a 3-year strategy, and there are ongoing updates. What's really interesting is it's called success. We need to also decide what the game is, and does it need other games for other market segments? And so we're seeing the company and ourselves building out a much richer, more nuanced strategy over the next couple of years. The bottom line is that we believe we've built one of the most serious financial education games anywhere. We'd love to learn from you and share our experiences with you. We're looking at the patterns in the data and seeing how this correlates to real world credit behavior and the uptake in products and savings behavior. We also managed to work with the bank to set up a framework within which the short-term goals and the investments that they need to make for corporate social responsibility really are supporting their long-term business strategy. We are Sea Monster. We believe that animated stories can change the world and that games can give us agency. We'd love to share your story. Thank you.